the Liberal defence of the carbon tax is in complete shambles. First, they only want Canadians to focus on the direct costs of the carbon tax and ignore all the secondary effects like smaller paychecks and higher prices, as if Canadians have a choice of which carbon tax costs they have to pay. But now we learned that there's a secret report that does show the true cost. The Parliamentary Budget Officer says that it proves that he's right, that the vast majority of Canadians are worse off paying the tax than any rebate they receive. The Liberals claim that it proves they're right. There's an easy way to settle this. Why won't the government just release the report so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable House Leader for the Government.
Mr. Speaker, math is really not the long suit of the party over there. The PBO has specifically said and repeated time after time, you would think they'd understand that 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off under the price on pollution than in the affected provinces. The fact is, though, Mr. Speaker, they talk of gag orders. We haven't seen the member for Peace River Westlock in a long, long time. And what about the former chair of the Status of Women Committee? We haven't seen her either. They are not anytime going to give less.
She's on maternity leave. She's talking about...
Just need to remind individuals we can't say whether someone's here or not, so just to be careful on those lines.
She's literally on maternity leave.
Apparently answering questions doesn't seem to be this minister's long suit, Mr. Speaker. Their responses here are completely ridiculous. They claim that this report exonerates their position, but they won't release it. This is a little bit like someone who's accused of a crime walking into court saying they have an amazing alibi that proves that they're innocent, but they just can't show it to anybody. Here's the thing, Mr. Speaker, if you won't show your evidence to the jury, you're probably guilty. Why not do the easy thing, release the report, remove the gag order so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start by wishing a happy World Environment Day to all Canadians, especially to the failed former leader of the Conservative Party, the member from Regina Capel, and the new leader of the Conservative Party from Carleton, who have voted against the environment over 400 times in this House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. It's clear where they stand on climate change, and it's clear where they stand on environmental protections. But Conservatives continue to mislead Canadians. Our government will continue to support the good work of the PBO, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry that Conservative math just isn't adding up these days.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand-Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that the Liberal carbon tax increases the cost of everything while failing to bring down emissions. The Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that Canadians are paying more than they're getting back from this so-called rebate. The Liberals are clearly afraid that Canadians will know the truth, and that is that the carbon tax has made life unaffordable.
That's right.
When will this government stop the cover-up, release the report, and confirm what we all know, that Canadians are suffering because of this carbon tax?
Because of Trudeau. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the Conservatives are finally asking a couple of questions that are at least in the neighbourhood of the economy. The next step for them is to recognize how significant today is. Today is the day that Canada, first among the G7, lowered interest rates. It's the first time rates have gone down since COVID hit. This is a tremendously important day for Canada, and it is our responsible economic plan that has made it possible.
The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Well, Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Prime Minister will finally meet François Legault about immigration. It's high time. For months, he hasn't been doing anything about Quebec's influx of new arrivals. Monday needs to be a turning point. The federal government needs to do something. Quebec has been asking for temporary immigration to be reduced and that French requirements be brought into federal programs. It's also asking for asylum claims to be shared fairly, and it's asking for a reimbursement of $1 billion. So, on Monday, will the Prime Minister finally sign the check on Monday? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, I know that the Bloc Québécois wants to speed up the processing of asylum claims, But what's really hypocritical is that they're getting up at the Finance Committee to oppose our reforms, which would do exactly that, speed up asylum claims processing. I know that the Premier of Quebec thinks the Bloc Québécois is useless. I don't share that opinion, but I'm starting to lose my convictions in that regard. Well, Mr. Speaker, if the federal government thinks that $1 billion is too much, it could have done something about asylum claims before. It could also have reduced that bill by doing its job, especially on work permits. According to Quebec, asylum claims represent 20% of people on welfare, not because they don't want to work, but because they're not allowed to do so. Minister Fréchette has confirmed that on average they have to wait for work permits for 10 to 11 months. That's what Minister Fréchette said. When will Ottawa stop keeping these people in a life of poverty? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the entire opposition opposed our reforms on asylum, which would have sped things up. I find it ridiculous. They should admit what they're doing. We've talked about dark and light blue. And as for Monday's meeting, they'll have to wait until Monday.
Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the Liberals are trying to hide what Canadians already know, that it's a carbon tax is a costly scheme that is making everything more expensive. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has already proven that the vast majority of Canadians are worse off economically because of this failed scheme. What we didn't know is that the government actually went out and did their own economic analysis of the carbon tax. But they're refusing to release it. Why the cover-up?
Here. Why? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite should be careful what he asks for, but I will reiterate for the benefit of this House that 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off today than they were before because of the price on pollution. And as a bonus on this World Environment Day, Mr. Speaker, the environment and climate change, we make our contributions to achieving our targets, and we can do Canada's part, as I know all Canadians want to do, in combating climate change.
Bravo.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, all we're asking for is that report to be released so Canadians can see the results, because it's Canadians who are the ones that are paying for this expensive, failed Liberal scheme. So when the government goes through the trouble of putting together a report and doing the analysis, but keeps that report a secret and doesn't even allow the Parliamentary Budget Officer to talk about it, you have to wonder, how bad is it, Mr. Speaker? When will they end the cover-up and release that report?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And unfortunately for the Conservatives, that's just not what the PBO has said. The Parliamentary Budget Officer issued a report about a month and a half ago saying that he accidentally overestimated the economic impact of the carbon price on Canadians, Mr. Speaker. I would like to re-emphasize for Canadians that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back through the Canada carbon rebate than they pay in the price on pollution, Mr. Speaker. And as a reminder, the next payment of the Canada carbon rebate will go out on July 15th in the summer. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are hiding the truth from Canadians. The Environment Minister is refusing to release a secret government report that proves the carbon tax is costing Canadians more than they get back. In fact, the Liberals have placed a gag order on their own budget watchdog, blocking him from speaking about this damning report. Canadians already know the carbon tax is a complete scam. So when will this Liberal minister release his secret report and end his carbon tax cover-up?